often seemingly used without a clear sense of what it actually means. Brand positioning is nothing more than what you do and who you do it for. That's it. We do digital marketing, and we do it for owners and senior directors of B2B and professional service organisations. When you have a clear positioning statement, it all seems so simple, so obvious, but arriving at that point can be excruciating. So I think it's worth understanding the four most common sources of positioning. The first is the simplest: become really good at one thing. Now, of course, I don't necessarily mean being the best in an objective sense. Who makes the world's best t-shirts or energy drinks? It's all a question of perception. Best could simply mean increases your status or makes you feel good, but the point is that you are viewed as the go-to brand for that one particular thing. The upside of this is not just the opportunity for high margins, but clarity, both for customers and operationally. You build and ship one thing, that's it. There are some downsides, however. For a start, if technology ever renders that one thing obsolete, you may have no other means by which to maintain your customer relationships. At the other end of the spectrum is providing a complete solution for one type of audience. You often see this in professional services, accountancy firms, for example, that provide absolutely everything for SMEs. This can result in really resilient customer relationships, as there are so many touch points and sources of value. But it can be an operational minefield, as every additional service line is introducing another way to make mistakes and get yourself fired. How far you stretch that relationship is a really big question, and I'll come back to that shortly. The third source of positioning is what we call access-based positioning, and it stems from your unique ability to deliver your products to the customer. So a village butcher, for example, probably isn't the best butcher in the country, but there's a good chance that they're the best butcher in the village. And for a local family hastily preparing lunch on a Sunday afternoon, that's all that matters. Gyms are a common example of this, as are storage companies, or indeed anything else where you need to be within a certain proximity of the customer. But it isn't just about physical proximity. Some brands may have a virtual access route into their customers, such as a company that's developed a really strong search engine presence over the years through the generation of lots of high quality content. Then there are those companies that have a logistical edge that enables them to service a customer at home in a way that their competitors can't, such as Amazon, of course. The final source of position is one that isn't talked about much. In fact, I think I might have made it up, but bear with me because I think it's actually where most businesses sit, particularly those in professional services. For those companies that can't benefit from a unique source of access, they need to revert to one of the first two options that I outlined before. At one end of the spectrum, they can be the best in the world at one thing, and at the other end, they can provide a complete solution to one particular audience. But for the reasons explained, these two extremes can present challenges. In many markets, being the best at just one thing is really difficult. In our market, for example, if our goal was to be the best in the world at website builds, good luck. We'd have to go way more niche. And then we really would risk becoming dependent on a particular technology that would inevitably at some point become obsolete. But if we try and do everything in the world for one particular kind of client, it'll become operational madness. But there is a solution to this, I think, and it sits in the middle of that spectrum. It's something that came to me during a conversation that I had a few years ago with my cousin. And it's an analogy that I've bored so many people with ever since. He's a doctor, and by the age of about 30, he'd been published multiple times, not just in mainstream media, but in both the Lancet and the New England Medical Journal. So I asked him, what was it about his approach that enabled him to develop such a name for himself so quickly? Other than his planet-sized brain and relentless work ethic, neither of which are much of a USP in that world. He replied, "Dan, I'm a decent surgeon, but I'm not the best. Probably pretty middle of the road. But the other surgeons look at what I do in academics and they just think it's another language. Meanwhile, it's true that I'm a pretty good academic, but there are people out there as good as me. But they look at what I do in the world of surgery and they just think, oh my God, that's so cool that you're getting your hands dirty, you're getting stuck in surgery. And that's my point of difference. I'm not the best in the world at either of those two things, but there aren't many people that can do both, and certainly not within the field of transplantations where I specialise." In that moment it clicked. Most businesses, particularly B2B or professional services, can't really compete at just one thing. But what they can do is marry 2 or 3 core competencies that offer tremendous combined value to their customer and become bloody good at both. So if you're struggling to find your one thing and you're desperate not to become a jack of all trades, perhaps you need to find your 2 or 3 things instead. See you next time.